Hello and welcome to my review of the DB Power EX5000 in comparison to the Sena Prism. On the top left of your screen you have the DB Power EX5000 and on the bottom right you have the Sena Prism. Now the reason for the comparison of these two cameras is I was looking for a cheaper camera to actually put in a more precarious position on the motorbike. Hang it off the exhaust bracket or put it where the footrest is or something like that. And I wasn't that keen on doing that with a £300 camera. So after looking around on the internet, I came across the Techmoan website, and he recommended the DB Power a couple of years ago. And I think at the time he actually had it reviewed at about £80 to actually purchase the camera with all the accessories and such. When I had a look on Amazon for the camera had actually come down to £29, which for that kind of price, it's almost a disposable camera. So I thought I'd just give this a quick try. I stuck this in the car and made a pretty makeshift bracket with regards to trying to get the cameras side by side. This was a cold November morning. It was the 2nd of November, and it's around 7 o'clock in the morning, so the sun hasn't quite come up yet. So it is a little bit dark, but it will hopefully give a good representation of how the light's affected and what kind of colours that you've got. I've actually split this in this manner to actually get the best ratio, and unfortunately I think unfairly to the DB Power, because I've actually got it under the A pillar of the car. It's in the shade a lot more, so I think it's having to react to the light itself. So you can see the occasional sun flare and some sunblast coming through there. So as you can see, again, the top left is the DB Power. It's a little bit darker, and that's even with the exposure increased to plus 1.5 on the camera, whereas a Prism is very much just plug and play. You turn it on and it does it all for you as well, so there's very little you can do with adjustments to the exposure. I think you can change the field of view with a phone app, but other than that it's very much as it is, as it comes out of the box really. I kind of feel that in some instances the DB Power is a lot brighter, a bit more bluer, or maybe even slightly more greener in this little bit here, but I think the Prism lets in slightly more light, so it must have a lower f-stop than the DB Power, and so you can actually see a lot more detail on the car dashboard, and the car dashboard is actually black rather than blue, as the DB Power is showing that up there. But you know what? It's a £29 camera against well, I think to buy the Prism on its own, it's about £169 just for the camera itself. So, the actual quality itself isn't that far away, and to actually then stick this camera somewhere like above on the front forks of the motorbike or at the rear pegs or anything like that, it's still going to give you some pretty good action shots as well. And I think overall, I think I've been pretty impressed with this. So the footage that we're going to have a look at today is basically just me driving on my route to work, from Worksop to Leeds. I think I'm just going to basically pull into the petrol station and then just give you some clips on the motorway. Towards the end there'll be some footage with regards to what the full screen looks like for both of these cameras, so you can just quickly have a look and see, not a side-by-side comparison, but definitely a full screen comparison against each other as well. If anybody's got any better ideas how to split this, I'm pretty open to opinions on that. It's taken me quite a while to use Adobe After Effects just to get these two working together, but hopefully it'll give you a good insight. Again, top left is the DB Power, bottom right is a Prism. We've got a 29-pound camera against a 169-pound camera. Obviously there's going to be a slightly better sensor used in there, but they're both doing 1080p at 60 frames, at 30 frames a second for both of these. The Sena doesn't do 1080p 60. The DB Power doesn't do 1080p 60 either. But yeah, have a look at the video. Tell me what you think, and I may actually construct a slightly better mount to hold both the cameras together to give hopefully a better side-by-side comparison. Thank you very much. So coming back to the review again, we've now just set off after filling the car up with fuel, and as you can see the sunburst coming through once we came back around the back of the building. I don't know if you noticed on the Sena, but as you can see there's quite a lot of sun bloom in there. Again, the DB Power is looking more blue than the Sena. The Sena's I think is actually representing the colours quite correctly. And then we're now driving directly into the sun, and the Sena's reacting to the changes in the light a lot more quick and a lot more responsive than the DB Power EX5000, and as from that I think you are going to get a much better picture quality with the Sena Prism. Again, it's down to a cost perspective as well. You know, it's a very cheap camera, but I would say it's about 85 to 90% of the quality that you get in from the Sena Prism. There's a little bit more camera shake on the DB on the EX5000, the DB Power EX5000. But I think that's primarily down to the makeshift camera mount that I've made for the camera itself. So I've effectively got them just both mounted to one suction pad. If they both had their own suction pad, then perhaps it would be slightly different. But again, you can see the blues are a lot more blue on the DB Power in the top left, and a lot more realistic in the Sena Prism at the bottom right. But overall, still very impressive. Still a great little camera. Comes with just about every single mount that you could ever possibly want. And ironically, whereas Sena's gone their own way with regards to making their own proprietary mounting system, so it looks like a GoPro connector. GoPro type connector, but it isn't. It just doesn't fit and it isn't compatible with GoPro. The DB Power EX5000 is. I don't know if they've just completely ignored the copyright of the GoPro attachments, but all the GoPro bits and bobs that I have just literally fitted directly onto the DB Power EX5000. At this moment now we're actually getting a little bit of speed, and as you can see there's a little bit of chatter with the in the top left screen. A little bit of vibration. Again, it's mounted to the sidecar the side window of the car. The Prism is working fine. I can't recall if I actually had the stabilization switched on or switched off on the DB Power, so I don't know if it's a fair enough comparison for the two. But it does show you what kind of picture quality you're going to get at speed with the camera itself. Finally, we're now heading up the A1 towards Leeds, and as you can see, we're now doing like motorway speeds, around 60-70 miles per hour. Again, just a little bit of full screen. You can see that perhaps the picture quality isn't that great on the DB Power EX5000, which is the larger picture in this in the screen. And again, the colours are a little bit washed out compared to the Sena Prism in the smaller picture. But again, you know, it's a price versus quality, and to be able to capture slightly lesser quality shot from a more risky vantage point, it's totally worth it. And I would have no qualms whatsoever in setting the bike to have one of these at the front, one of these at the rear, maybe one from a foot peg kind of angle, and then have the center prism itself just for a head cam as such. And on this final bit here, you can now see the quality of the center prism. Again, it now flips back to the DB Power EX5000, so you can kind of see the difference between the two. Unfortunately, due to the way that YouTube actually compresses the files anyway, I'm not sure what the final output's going to be, but I'll certainly review that